yourself?
Yeah, okay. My name's Judy Carroll and I'm based in Australia. And I am one of the 3 waves of volunteers that Dolores Cannon speaks about in her book. An off-planet person who has come in here as an ambassador. For this reason, I chose to be what's known as the blended or dual soul, so that I can span the bridge between 2 planetary cultures. In my case, it's Earth Human and Rays. I was asked to carry out this mission in a very full-on contact experience back in 1983 when I was asked to start writing books because people were complaining about difficulty in communicating between themselves and the Greys. So I was asked to write books, and I've written 3 books. My latest is Extraterrestrial Presence on Earth, Lessons in History. I was also told to learn meditation and Tai Chi. I was advised by the Greys to take up Tai Chi, which I now teach, and also Reiki, which I also teach. So that's my story in a nutshell.
I'm a lifelong contactee. I am also a volunteer. My contact started as an infant, a newborn actually. Oddly enough, I have a memory of that because I popped out of my body and was standing by the crib looking at the infant laying in the crib, and had my gray companion Da was next to me, asking me, "So how you liking it now, Sherry?" So my contact with them continued on throughout my entire life. I woke up to it in 1987 or 88 when my community had a UFO flat. It was a hotbed of activity around the whole world. It was the place where they had the most activity going on at the time, and it went on for some time, went on for quite a while. And the Center for UFO Studies sent a crew up to investigate. Don Schmidt, who you might know him from his work on Roswell and with Ancient Aliens, and I think there was a movie made about his stuff. He was the investigator, the lead investigator in my case, and he did a phenomenal job, which I was blessed to have him. He was very compassionate and understanding because I was very blocked against believing in anything like abductions. I had never heard about that sort of thing, and I didn't really necessarily believe in it. I believed that there was life out there, but I did not believe that there were little gray men coming in and kidnapping people and taking them from their beds and from their cars and taking them on board a spaceship. It was the wackiest thing I ever heard. But over time, of course, I was forced to accept it as the encounters during the investigation. I was having contact, and it was significant in contact several times a week. And then I became aware that my child was involved in it. And nothing gets your attention more than that. I had to get to the bottom of what was going on, and I set out to find out what this whole unimaginable thing was about. And didn't really get any good answers for a long time. In 1990 or thereabouts, I had a meeting in my living room. And I can't remember if it was with 2 other or 3 other tall grays. We were actually in our etheric bodies. I had laid down on the sofa because I was exhausted from the investigation and the rumors about me, and my business was, I had a real estate company, and it was suffering because of the craziness that was going on at my house. My children were experiencing abductions and encounters, and they had friends over who would see these entities. I mean, it was just a crazy time in my life. But I stepped out of my body, and I had a meeting with these 3 tall, I think it was 3 of them, in my living room. And they told me at that time that things were going to get rough on planet Earth, and that I had fulfilled enough of my mission, which was to participate in the hybrid program. They wanted me to leave, and they'd said that I would be leaving soon via a car accident. And I disagreed and fought my way through it with them, and I stood my ground, and I stayed because of my children. And they're right, it did get rough. And but before things got bad, that was 1990, right about 1990, they gave me a 20-year reprieve. 20 years. They said I could have 20 years with hardly any contact from them, and my life would be what they called normal. It would be the first time that I would have a normal life. And but in exchange for that, they were going to study my relationships, because my husband had left me because of all the craziness, and so I was going to be single, and I was going to start a series of relationships, and they wanted to observe them, and I agreed to that. So for 20 years, I lived a normal life, and I had the best time of my life. It was a great time. I didn't have any interference. I wouldn't say I was normal, but it was fun. And I built my business, and it was a good time until all of a sudden in December of, I think it was 2009 or 2010. I don't remember dates very well. I have to look it up. But all of a sudden, my guide showed up that night by the side of my bed, and I woke up and he was standing there, and I said, "What are you doing here?" I said, "Why are you back here?" And he said, "Well, remember the great earth changes we talked about? That's well underway. It's time for us to get to work. You've got work to do." That was the end of it for me. My normal life was out the window. I lost my family, I lost my wealth, I lost my business, I lost my children, I lost everything. And they told me to write the book, and I said no. And they said, "Write the book," and I said no. So they took over my body, and I found myself one morning, I came to, and I was writing a book. And I got really pissed, and I said, "I'm not doing this." They said, "Yes, you are." And I said, "No, I'm not." But I looked at what I had written. I couldn't help it. I was curious. I went back to the first page of it, and I read it, and it just grabbed me. And I thought, this is my life, and it's explaining to me all the dark secrets, the corners of things that I only had partial memories of and kind of a sense of, but I never had clarity on. So I said, okay, I'll write the book, because I wanted to know about my life. So I agreed to write the book. Then I refused to have it published, and they got really mad at me. So they sent in Archangel Gabriel to deliver the message. And pretty hard to say no to an angel. So I very belligerently wrote up the cover letter and the stuff that you do to get a book published. And I sent it off and thought that'd be the end of it. I didn't think anybody would want that silly little book, but they did. So Dolores Cannon ended up publishing it. And as soon as I agreed to have it published, I came under attack, and I was poisoned several times, and I was hit with alpha radiation, electromagnetic frequencies, directed energy weapons, implants, voices in the head stuff. It was a terrible time. And I am just now coming out of it.
One of the things that struck me about Judy Carroll, Sherry Wilde, and their third compatriot, who's not with us today, Susie Hansen, was that they had found each other through various ways and had come together in almost like a triumvirate. And this was due to the nature of their experiences on craft, their nature of experiences with extraterrestrials. And I just found it absolutely amazing that these three individuals would find each other and then come to a common set of terms. As a matter of fact, you actually put out a joint statement, a mission statement, I believe, between the three of you and what your similarities were and the like. But if you would, Judy and Sherry, can you go back a little bit and tell us, how did you find each other? What was the common link or links between each other? And why did you feel compelled to come together in a three-part mission to bring contact experience and contact information to us?
Well, all of us have made pre-birth choices to do this. I'm just trying to think back. Sherry and I actually connected one night up on the ship in, when was it, Sherry? November 2011, I think it was, at a meeting. And they were discussing what was going on down here, the hijacking of the planet, and they were asking all of us who were present at this meeting, which was a whole cross-section of different ET people there, and they were calling for suggestions on what could be done about you know, freeing up Earth plane humanity who've been brainwashed basically by a group down here for millennia. And I'd already had my first 2 books published at that stage. The Zeta Message was my first book, and Human by Day, Zeta by Night was a sort of a dramatised version of it. And they had just come out in 2011, and this meeting was called at the end of the year. So I can remember sort of trying to hide myself back behind some other people because they were suggesting to me also that I write a book on what's happened on the planet, what's been happening. And I thought, oh, you know, I've just done 2 books, you know, I don't want to have to do another one. So I was sort of trying to disappear behind a couple of tall Pleiadians or something. But anyway, they really pushed with me. And I think, was that when you were asked to write your book, Sherry?
No, it was before that. That meeting in November of 2011, that was the one where they asked me to volunteer to take on the victim energy of humanity, and would I agree to do that? And you smartly said no, and I stupidly said, okay, I'll do that. I'll take that on. So I remember that meeting. I remember being with you a few times. I remember being with you even before that, I thought, on the ship. We've been up there quite a few times together.
Yeah. Anyway, they pushed that I write this book. And as I say, I just had 2 others published. So I thought, okay, I better start writing something down. I didn't know where I was going with it. And as I started writing, like with Sherry, it just sort of started writing itself. And the next thing, my publisher, Brian Chrissy, contacted me and said, oh, why don't you write a 3rd book on the history of Earth? So I think he might have been up there with us, also getting the suggestion. So that's how Sherry and I have connected upstairs on the ship. I talk about it as being upstairs. Susie as well, she's also a melded or dual soul. She's written a lovely book, The Dual Soul Connection. So we also work together up there. Susie's job is to bring out technology that's used up on the ship. She's spoken about how she was using touchscreen like our little iPhones that we have down here. She was using them up on the ship back in about the 1980s or 1970s or something. So she's been showing technology up there, and that's her job, is to try and connect that with Earth plane technology. My job is to connect cosmic spirituality with religion down here. So for this reason, I've been educated in a Catholic convent, brought up Catholic. So, you know, I've got a pretty good idea of religion down here, but I'm trying to bring it in line with cosmic spirituality. So Susie and I are sort of working both with science and religion. That's pretty well where it came from. That's where we met up on the ship. We worked together up there at night. Have you got anything to add to that, Sherry?
Just that my part of it is to work on the victim energy of humanity, trying to bring the message that you can't be a victim. That seems to be what they wanted me to share with humanity. But and Susie and I, we've met at conferences before I got too sick to do them. So I met her. But you and I remember hearing you speak on some podcasts a few times, or on some interviews, Judy, even before it came to light, the memories. But that would have been like that was in 2011 too. That would have been like no, that was in 2012. I heard you. I was in Texas and I heard you. And it resonated. Everything you said just resonated so strongly with me, and it just helped me with the remembering.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I remember you contacted me on Skype for a bit of advice about getting a book published, and so did Susie. So we met down here as well on Skype. We spoke to each other, and as soon as we all saw each other, there was instant recognition. Yeah.
I'm gonna make a quick comment, and then Walter, you had your hand up. I'll go to you. They scrubbed the launch today. I guess they're going to put the launch on Saturday. They had to scrub it. Probably a weather issue. But they were talking earlier about how the new technology on this new ship has touch screen technology. And Judy, you just made me think of the fact that, was it Susie that was onto the part of the technology in the crafts?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like what she was onto, they're just getting to now, because sounds like they have the touch screen technology in the new item that's allegedly Elon Musk's. I understand it's really not, but he's the front man. He takes the name for it. It's more of a DARPA and NASA and military industrial type of ship. It's not really Elon Musk, but this is what I've ascertained. But that's fascinating. Walter, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, just a quick comment. Judy and Sherry, you consider yourselves two incarnations in one container. Sherry, I mean, Judy in particular, I can remember you in your first book commenting again how how confusing it was to be both Zeta and human. And Sherry, this goes to you as well. I haven't quite has researched as much into your work on this, but can you talk a little bit about that? Do I have this correct, first of all, that you consider yourselves a Zeta/human or human/Zeta,
Yeah.
that you are two incarnations in one body container, and that this creates or has created a sense of difficulty in ferreting out personalities and how you navigate physical reality? Is that true of both of you?
Yes, it is for me. How about you, Sherry?
I have an awareness of another part of me, another aspect of me that's operating on another level. And it may very well be the guy that I call Da. There's a strong connection with him and I. But I am aware of my ET self. I'm aware of my multidimensional selves. There's more than that. But I actually pull in. What I do is I switch out. I used to say I was switching out my soul, but I now realize what I'm doing. I'm just switching out different aspects of me. Before I went to Arizona to write the book, for instance, you know, I started sending emails I was emailing friends, and they would write back to me and say, what's happening to you? You know, your emails are so flowery and so descriptive, and they're so interesting to read, and it reads like a novel, you know. What I was doing is I had switched out and brought in a part of myself that was ready to write, you know, that could write the book. And I've done that throughout my life. I switch out, and sometimes with it goes some of my memories. My children called me on it a few times when they were younger. I would switch out aspects of myself, and they would notice the difference in my subtle differences in my personality, plus parts of my memory would be gone. And so I've done that. So it's similar to what you have, Judy, but not the same at all. So I wouldn't say that it's the same thing.
Yeah. Yes, in my case and in Susie's case, we actually made a pre-birth decision to be the dual or blended soul. And what that basically is, when we're going to incarnate into a life, we tune in to the energy signature of a particular planetary collective, like most Earth humans tune into Earth plane humanity collective before they come down here to be born. What we did, we tuned into two planetary or cultural planetary collectives, Earth, human, and grey, so that it was like a blending of consciousness that was chosen as it was made as a pre-birth choice. So what I find when I go to sleep at night, my human body goes to sleep on the bed, and I've actually seen my grey body come up out of it and go up onto the ship to basically work. So it's like the title of one of my first books, Human by Day, Zeta by Night. During the day, I work as an Earth human, perfectly normal Earth human, well, up to a point, as normal as you can be. And at night, I go up on the ship as a grey. But I have had a lot of trouble being an Earth human down here, because as a child, I chose not to be conscious of my ET side, but I was still having contact. And so I went through a lot of fear as a child. And I did this on purpose because I wanted to experience the fear of ET contact, because I knew that in the future I'd be helping people with this, which I'm doing now. And so by experiencing it personally, I can empathise with people. So when someone's saying to me, oh, I'm absolutely terrified, I'm being taken out of my body, I'm having contact with greys, I understand where they're coming from. So, I can see my life was very well planned, At the same time, it's given me a lot of problems through my childhood and even adulthood, because the grey body is different to the earth human body. The greys, for example, as you know, Sherry, they can't move their lower jaw, or can only move it very little. And I have this same problem carried over into my human body. And I've actually had healing from one of the greys. I have a tall grey teacher, Maris, who, like Sherry said, I know he's a higher part of me. And he actually came in once and gave me a mouth and jaw massage. And I could feel his long fingers going right down into my throat. It was a little bit like being at the dentist, but it wasn't unpleasant. I wasn't choking or anything. But he was massaging all down inside my throat and around my jaw. And I asked him telepathically, you know, why are you doing this? And he said, it to help to relax the muscles so you can speak out. And even as a child going to the convent, I took elocution lessons from the Mother Superior at our school to help me to speak out more. And I wasn't even aware of it until I started doing Zoom and Skype interviews. This side of my face almost looks like I've had a slight stroke, in that it doesn't work quite as well as this side. So obviously that's the grey thing coming through. I've actually received physiotherapy not that long ago when I had to do a bit more talking like this. I went to a physiotherapist, and she did exactly the same work as my grey teacher Maris did, but without going right down into the throat, but she was working inside my mouth.
Wow, fantastic. Al, would you want to ask a question?
Sure. First, I'd like to bore you people again with the comments that I make almost every week, and that is the connection between the physical world, the world of physics, planets, UFOs, and the non-physical world, the world of ghosts and spirits and reincarnation and pre-life planning. And Judy's book was not only a connection, but the intertwining of those two concepts, which to me logically shouldn't be connected, but I've seen it over the years how the connection there is, and Judy's book really brings out the deep connection between the two worlds. But my question, Judy, would be that the concept in about 1970, Star Trek came out, and it brought about a term called the Prime Directive. And the theory is civilizations of more advancement should not interfere with those of lesser advancement until a certain time. And A, to the question is that true? Does that exist? And is there a confederation of ET planets that abide by that?
Yes, it is true. Yeah, parts of Star Trek certainly are. There is a governing body. I think Susie refers to it in her book as a universal governing body, which is, I love that term. That's really good. I know that there's a lot of different terms used down here, Galactic Federation and all that, okay, but that's the only term. Universal governing body is what I really relate to. I'll just explain something, that a teaching that we were given by the Greys many, many years ago, back in about 2001, where they spoke to us about a thing called the human ladder. And I think this might be what you're referring to. What the human ladder is, it's a cycle of what the Greys call galactic levels, but that's not quite right. It actually levels of ascending conscious awareness, ascending and expanding conscious awareness throughout the universe, or multiverse would probably be a better word for it. And on planet Earth, we're on level 1, which means we can access about 10% of our potential conscious awareness. And this is intrinsically linked into our amount of DNA that's active. Now, as we evolve, we move up to level 2, which means we can access 20% conscious awareness, 20% DNA, and so forth, right up to the very top of the ladder, where we are pure mind, with all our DNA activated. This just made so much sense to me. It's a cycle of evolution for all humans. We move through this. And it's not just Earth human type humans. There are many, many humans involved. Every animal form in the universe has the potential of evolving into a human if they so desire. And so here, that's why we have the Greys, who are insectoid humans, the reptilians, who are reptoid humans, etc., etc. The universe is just endless. Yeah.
So it seems that there's a lot of cheating going on. It seems like ETs do come down to us and influence us in certain ways, but it sounds like a Zeta came up with a plan, and their plan was to incarnate a person who had been a human prior, as you had, in, and who was a Zeta in her last life, incarnate her as you did, and to bring the message to Earth, bring the message to let Earth know that the Zetas aren't the bad guys. They're here for love. They're here for peace. They're here to help us develop. But who's stopping you from landing on the White House steps and promoting what you want to promote, as you did in your book? But who's stopping you from coming here? Is there an evil force on this planet now, prisoning us, keeping us prisoners?
Yes, there is, but that's not
Go ahead.
actually what. Yeah, yes, there is. Again, I'll speak about this very, very thoroughly in my third book, Extraterrestrial Presence on Earth. There's been a number of Genesis events on Earth, and one of them was at the time of the dinosaurs, when a reptilian group, I think it was the Draconians, for this claim, it was the Draconians who came here and actually created a human race out of the dinosaur species, just as modern man was later created and evolved, is probably a better word, out of the mammalian primate. And this earlier race of reptoid humans are the ones that I refer to them as repterans, because they're not off-planet reptilians. They're from right here. They were created here on Earth. So there's no evil ETs coming in. That's all the story that they push. But they're actually an earlier Earth human race, and they didn't like the idea when other ETs came in and started creating modern man. They saw them as a threat, and this is why there was interference done, which has been told in the Bible as, Lucifer in the Garden of Eden. But I mean, that's very, very, very much a parable. It's not, it's not true, sort of. It is, but it isn't. It's a parable. So these are the ones who are based down here. Some of them are incarnating as human beings. They're the ones that we refer to as the cabal, but there's more of them on lower dimensions of the Earth. People talk about the inner Earth, and yes, there are physical tunnels and caves and things down there, but there's also other dimensions, because planets are sentient beings, the same as we are. Right. And so a planet has multidimensional aspects. And these negative beings that I call them reptilian controllers, that's where their base is, the inner Earth. So they're the ones who are spreading all the stories about evil greys and evil reptilians and all coming in, right. Whereas all along it's actually them.
In your first book, you write, humans are the most disconnected of all humans in the cosmos. Is that because our DNA has been tampered with? We might have had 12 DNA strands, and now we're down to 2. Is that a conscious effort? I mean, we can't do telepathy. We can't become shapeshifters. Is that because we're dummied down for a reason?
Yeah.
Yes?
That was it. That was actually the interference that's as given as parable as Lucifer in the Garden of Eden. Human DNA was actually interfered with back then. And so this is why a lot of people are being taken up on the genuine ET ships to have their DNA repaired. A lot of that work is repair work. And this is the reason why a lot of the star children who are being born now are being born with much more telepathy and psychic abilities, because more of their DNA has been awakened. Also people who have gone through contact experiences, the ones who've gone through genuine ET contact, many become more environmentally friendly. They develop psychic abilities. They develop deeper insight. They lose their fear of death. And that's the reason why.
One more, Doug. You talk about star seeds and star children and how they have more ET DNA or ET genes. How is it because we have a lot of junk DNA that's being reactivated, or as scientists call it, junk, or is it that there is a hybrid system going on, alien hybrids, like Sherry's children are, and they're coming back to Earth? how is it physically possible to induce more alien DNA into humans? How's it happening?
Yes, it's through the hybrid program. People are taken up onto the ships and impregnated. Sherry can talk about that more than me because she's had much more contact with the hybrid program than I have. I have another friend who has as well, but Sherry's the one to speak to here.
Okay. Okay.
Terry, do you want, Sherry, do you want to answer that now? And then Terry will ask a question, but Sherry, would you like to make a comment?
I'll just say that I did agree to be part of the hybrid program. There's quite a few different hybrid programs going on with different races and even with our own military. Some of them are not benevolent at all. Some are quite nefarious. But the ones that I'm participating in, as I understand it, I agreed to it because at the time I came onto the planet, there was little hope for the planet, for the children of Earth to evolve again. It had been, it had come around several times in the past where humanity had a chance to move into the higher frequencies along with Mother Earth. And each time there was a very, very small harvest, if any. And so the humanity was washed off the planet and receded again, started over. So we were going to preserve the human species through the hybrid program because they didn't want to lose the evolved human species as it had reached a good positive state. So that's what I agreed to, and I have, I believe it's 67 hybrid children right now that are living off planet at the time. So how they do it, I remember being in the lab. I remember being, I spent a lot of time with the children on the ship, a lot of the hybrid children, and my hybrid children are human to human with ET DNA enhancement is what they call it. So they enhanced the characteristics of the human children for the most part. And I've met my children. They're amazing, high frequency beings. So I understand what they're doing. On the ship, you can go into the lab, you can go into the nursery, you can go in. I mean, you can see the hybrid program in action. It's there, and they basically, you know, they are able to. Their genetics, you know, that's what they're known for. That's what they do, and so they know how to do that. They did do enhancements with one of my children. I was very unhappy about it, but they did. In utero, they took me for a day, and they did something to my daughter. I'm not sure what they did, but I'm just hoping, you know, I believe it's positive. She's very healthy, and not sure what they did, but that's what I know about the hybrid program for the most part in a nutshell.
Thank you. Terry, why don't you had your hand up? You have a question?
Yeah, I do, and I'd address it to both of our guests today if I could. In the United States, in particular, there are a lot of people that go missing from state and federal parks. There's a gentleman named David Paulides who wrote a series of books called Missing 411 that addresses that subject and talks about cluster areas where people disappear from. Actually, the park that I was abducted from is designated as one of those cluster areas. According to, and there are lots of sources out there, anywhere from 30,000 to 100,000 people that disappear every year under really mysterious circumstances where it's not predation, it's not somebody wanting to get lost, it's just really like they just vanished. Is there anything that you could offer, either of you or both of you could offer insight-wise as to what that phenomena might be attached to? Where does it come from?
Yeah, I can't really add anything there. I don't know if Sherry can. I do know that people can, you know, some areas have portals, let's put it that way, and people can go through a portal and not get back again. That's what I understand.
I would agree with that, Judy. I mean, I've heard about that, and I've listened to some of those videos and lectures, and it's a disturbing subject. I find it to be disturbing because some of the people who disappear are children. But I agree that there's some kind of a portal, there's some kind of a flap or some kind of a quirk there that they're moving into a different dimension, or maybe they're being taken into another dimension. not necessarily by nefarious means, but I wouldn't be qualified to speak to it really, but that's my thought on it.
Why do we need to be sent back down to grade school to grow up again, to get up to where we were in the first place? For whose benefit? I don't know if anybody wants to take that on. Savvy, you could jump in on that too. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's for the benefit of the soul. It's to gain experience. It's all very well being a discarnate light body floating around up there, but physical experience is what helps to add massive dimensions to the soul. It's really hard to put this into physical words. It's way beyond physical dimensions. This is why we incarnate down here, and whether we incarnate as a Cro-Magnon or whatever, it's to gain experience. And the other thing that people down here don't understand is that consciousness, like the way consciousness manifests through an earth human doesn't necessarily manifest in the same way, but it's just as legitimate through another being. So that animals, trees, rocks, planets all have consciousness. And this is the secret behind ET technology, is being able to tap into the consciousness of seemingly non-sentient beings. For example, with the Greys, we tap into the consciousness of the ship, and that's how the ships are driven, through the consciousness of the ship, and all the technology is the same. And so for a soul to gain maximum experience, they need to come in different forms like that, through the animal kingdom, through the mineral kingdom, through lower forms of the human kingdom. And as they gain experience, they're learning and learning and learning, and this is building up around the soul, strengthening it. Does that make sense?
I wanted to just say that no one's made you come here. No one's controlling or dictating that you incarnate on planet Earth. That's always a free will choice that your soul makes. And our souls are actually just an aspect of the one infinite creator. So we're all one. All living consciousness is one with the creator. So we make the conscious choice to come onto a planet like planet Earth because we want to experience the contrast. We want to experience duality. We want to get to know ourselves through the challenges that this planet gives us. And so for myself, having come here from a sixth dimension and stepped down into 3D again, it's been very challenging. And for a while after I was poisoned and going through the attack years, I got frustrated and angry about it. And I said, why is this happening to me? Why aren't you protecting me? I shouldn't have to deal with this because I'm here as a volunteer and I'm here on this mission and I can't do it if I'm sick. And I was very frustrated with them and angry about it. And finally, I got an answer that satisfied me. Finally, he said to me, you chose this. You know that you chose this. You can't be a victim. And I said, I know, but I can't believe I would choose this. And he said, you chose this, Sherry. You chose this experience. And I said, but why? And he said, because it colors your soul in a way that you could never have gotten without having lived through this experience. And to me, that made sense. It put into words something that you really can't put into words, the coloring of your soul. And, and I've seen souls. I know I've seen souls. And if you see them, some are very clear and translucent, but there are those that are just magnificently beautiful with so many different colors and so much light running through them. They're just amazing. And that's the difference. It's based on the experience. And so when I give my lectures before I got sick, and people used to say, because my big thing is to tell people you can't be a victim. Everything that happens to you, you invited into your life, you asked for it on some level. People always inevitably get up and they stand up and they say, I was sexually abused as a 3-year-old little girl, and you can't tell me that I asked for that. You can't tell me that I said that would be okay, that I wanted to have that experience. And they find it a hard thing to accept, but it's absolutely true. There is nothing that happens to you that you do not put out and you do not agree to, either before you came here or once you're here, you decide that you want that experience. And that goes for myself as well with the poisoning. So that's the big lesson that I have learned from being on planet Earth. It's huge, but we come here for the experience, and it's like going to the amusement park. if you're going to go to the amusement park, do you want to go in and you want to ride on the teacups and go round in circles all the time, round in circles? Or do you want, what do most people do? They go straight to that ride. It's
Roller
going to
coaster.
scare the crap out of them. The
Yeah.
biggest roller coaster, the meanest roller coaster, and they're standing in their line, and while they're waiting for it, they're going, boy, I hope that thing scares the crap out of me. I hope it whoop-de-loops, and I hope it takes me up high and then drops me down, because you want that. And you're the same way when you're waiting in line to come to planet Earth. You're like, I want to have a life that really stimulates me, that really excites me, that really challenges me. So that's why we do it.
So Al, we're going to go to you, but Nancy had her hand up. And Nancy, before you start, I just gave this entire amusement park roller coaster. We all got on a bus. We pulled up to the amusement park. We all got out. Some went on the roller coaster. Some went on the fun house. Some ate cotton candy. We all hung out for a long time, got on the bus and went back home. I just gave that whole analogy talk to somebody the other day. So it's amazing that you bring that up. Nancy, you had your hand up, and then when you're done with whatever, we'll go back to Al.
First of all, Judy and Sherry, I want to thank you both for being here today. I listened to your interview, and I resonated with so much of what you both said. And yes, we volunteered to be here, and I found so many things I want to address. Sherry, don't let me forget the last thing I want to finish with is an instant message that I received from you before I spoke at the Ozark. We have this thing where we call these major players in our life. Mine is Mr. You have Da, and Judy, I believe you called yours the guiding teacher. Also the automatic writing and sleep writing. I did the same thing, and I fought not writing my book. My first book, I really didn't want to write at all, and it was written through me. Judy, you mentioned, and this really got me, the downloads, which we all get, and the trickle-down effect, and why it takes sometimes months, years for us to get the full download, because it's that trickle-down effect. And I resonate so much with that because I'm still getting that. Questions. The buried memories, yes. People wonder, well, if this happened, why didn't you speak about it earlier? But we bury these memories, and I believe we're programmed to speak about what we speak about when it's time. Now, this is Sherry. I need you on this one. Shortly before I spoke at the Ozark convention, this is really emotional for me because I'm still suffering with the effects. You warned me. You said, be vigilant, my dear. In fact, I didn't name you, but I put the words that you sent me in my second book, Preordained. And I thought, oh, nothing's going to happen. Well, I still suffer with I've been to 5 doctors. They wanted me to go see a 6th. I fight with it every day of my life. As just February, I had another attack. And it can happen within a matter of minutes. Or I call them the good days, bad days. The last time was in February, and both of my rib cages were burned like radiation. I've got pictures I can send. They're on my phone. And
I know.
they itched and burned at the same time. And then the next day they were just dots, like spots. But it's my face, I can handle that. It was my face, and I still fight that. My face blows up, and I get these, the doctors have never seen anything like it. The pictures are in the book. And my girlfriend said, you're going to put those pictures in the book because they're so atrocious. They make me want to throw up. I was wearing a mask and gloves a year before, and it's so ironic that everybody's wearing them now. I was wearing them to hide. I'm still scarred. My arms, my neck, my upper chest here, my face. Tell me what happened to you. Explain this, please.
Well, your attack sounds a lot. Do you know Sasha Stone?
No, I don't.
Do you know Sasha? Well, Sasha Stone is a great human. He's doing great things for the planet. And I Skyped with him. He heard about me and about the attacks that I'd had. And he got a hold of me, and we talked for a long time, and he showed me pictures of his body after he'd been attacked, and it sounds like what you went, it was just all welts and just terrible what they did to him. He recommended to me, I've been hit with everything. And he recommended to me something called a 5G BioShield. If you Google 5G BioShield, that's basically, I think that's the name of their website. It comes out of Russia, and Simon Parks is promoting it also, but Sasha is in on it, and he's researched it, and he recommended it to me. I bought 3 of them, even though I'm broke. I bought 3 of them. I put them throughout my house because I just could not take it anymore. I mean, I have declared my sovereignty. I know everything to do. I know how to surround myself with light. I know how to protect myself. I know how to tell them to leave me the hell alone. I know how to declare my sovereignty. I know how to do all that, but sometimes it's not enough. These 5G BioShields create a dome of high frequency around your house. I think it's 40 or 60 feet. It goes out. I have 3 of them in the different corners of my house. We noticed the difference here immediately. The footsteps, the walking around at night, the nastiness that was going on at night, the directed energy weapon, all of it. I take it with me wherever I go.
These are all government.
Yes.
Government attacks. Yes. I want people to know that because they'd like to say it was the ETs. It's not. It's our government.
It's not ETs. It's military. Maybe possibly working with some nefarious ETs actually. Because I've had Draco here, but I don't have any fear of the Draco. I have fear of the military. And so yeah, what they've done is just, I mean, it's going to, if I get better, like I believe I'm starting to get better now, today and yesterday are the first 2 days that I have felt human in almost in 8 years. Thank you, Judy, for the Reiki, by the way. And I think I'm turning the corner and going to get better. I'm going to write a second book that's going to tell all the details of the attack and what they did to me. And it's also coming out in the film that's being made. Hopefully the film will be picked up, the TV show. And that's going to have all of that in there too. Yeah, I'm not the only one. I mean, a lot of people have been hit with these directed energy weapons.
Exhaustion. Yes, they have a way of making you so exhausted, and they make your brain, I said it feels like somebody scrambled eggs inside my head because they don't want talking. Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's terrible. I mean, the only reason I'm not dead is because I do have protection. Because I was screaming, where's my protection? And they're looking at me like, why do you think you're still alive? And why do you think your brain is not fried?
Wow.
What they did to you, you should be, so yeah, it was a nightmare.
And
Sorry,
Judy,
I
say that this is so weird because I've had this desire, and I'm not even sure what Reiki is, but I've wanted to get into this Reiki, and you give lessons. I don't know if you give them online, but anyway, thank you guys.
Sev?
All right, hi.
There you go.
My goodness, I have so much to say, but I can't say all of it. I just want to start off with a comment and then a question. The comment is, it's very nice to me, the similarities that we have with the information that the Greys gave you and the information that they gave me too. And so I've taken it as my personal mission to also talk about this information, which is raising your frequency, expanding your consciousness, activating your DNA, and getting rid of the victim vibration as much as possible. And so in all of my work, I try to include all of that and also talk about the bridge between religion and spirituality and ETs and science. My question has so many, but right now I'm going to ask about the hybridization program. I talked about it in my book. The Greys gave me a lot of information about it. When I was in Roswell, New Mexico, they gave me information, and also another time when I was in Baltimore. And there were different types of hybridization programs. I know about the humans and the Greys, and then there's another type of hybridization program. I'm still trying to figure it out. And my memories include humans and grays, and sometimes just humans, and sometimes just humans and hybrid babies. And so in my mind, they feel separate. So I'd like to ask you, I'm talking about MILAB, I have a lot of those memories too. So I'm just curious as to your experiences, your thoughts regarding a hybridization program that is with MILAB as opposed to hybridization programs with other beings.
For me, the MILAB hybridization program is a nefarious one. I don't have a good sense of it, a good feeling about it at all.
Neither do I.
And I'm sick that they, when you have contact, the military will come in because they know you're having contact. And it sickens me to know that they took DNA from me and use that in their sick experiments. Just makes me ill to think about it. My guys did come in and they put, at one point they put a big emblem, it was like a raised tattoo. It was a big circle with a triangle in the middle of it, and then some kind of something else. I looked at it. It was down on my lower abdomen. And I knew when I saw it that it meant keep your hands off of her. Do not touch her. You violate her and you will pay. So my guys came in and put that on. I was so glad. It was during the time when I was having MILAB experiences at the same time as my guys were coming in. So it was 1980s, during 87, 88, 89, and 90, right into there. I was having 2, 3, 4 times a week. If that's what I could recall, hard to say. I mean, I was with them so much, but at the same time, the military was coming in also. And they were also coming in for my child. So I don't have a good sense of what they were up to. I just don't trust them. I don't get a good feeling about it. I don't know. I don't remember much about them. It's pretty well blocked.
But what you don't have a good feeling about is the MILAB hybridization program. But do you feel comfortable with the gray human hybridization program? Okay.
Yeah. And I'm not sure it's gray. I mean, my guys, I need to clarify, my dial looks like a gray. I've been on the ship with Judy. I've never asked, except for once. I had my publisher ask me, because in my book, I talk about what happened when I was 17 and I was taken on board a ship and they took my eggs from me at that time. And the guy, I describe him as a gray. I call him a gray in the book. And, but they tell me that they're from Andromeda. And the publisher asked me, he said that doesn't line up because grays don't come from Andromeda. And I said, I don't know where they come from. I don't know anything about any of this. I just tell you what I know. And he said, well, he can't be a gray, or if he is a gray, why is he saying he's from Andromeda? There's something off here. And I said, what do you want me to do about it? I said, I'm not going to change anything because that's the truth. That's all I know. And he said, well, ask him. Next time you see him, ask him, is he a gray? So I did. Next time I was with Da, I said to him, my publisher wants to know, are you a gray? Are you a Zeta? And he looked at me kind of surprised, and he goes, well, that would not best describe the truth of who I am. And I said, okay, so what are you? And he said, well, I am what you would call an etheric being. That is that I do not have a body. But when I come into your world to do my work, I need to have a container in order to do the work that we do with the program. And he said, so I wear a Zeta, what we call a Zeta body. They're highly functional. And I said, okay. I said, that answers the question. And I said, well, then who are you? Where do you come from? And he said, he thought a second, and he said, I am a voyager of the universe going where needed in service to the creator. So that's who he is. I've never asked what planet my guys are from. I don't know if they're grays. I don't know if they're Andromeda. I don't know what they are. I've never been curious enough to know. It doesn't matter to me. So
thank you, Sherry. Yeah. Thank you. Judy, does Judy have something to say about the MILAB hybridization program?
Yes, yes. I'll just put in something about the greys, because what Sherry was just saying, I've been told exactly the same thing. The greys manifest across a whole lot of the galactic levels of the human ladder. So yes, there are physical ones living in the Zeta Reticulum system, but the ones that I work with are right from up at about level 8. And so yes, they're beyond physical manifestation. And yes, very much they are voyagers of the universe. I love that term. I was told something similar. So the ones who are working down here are more from those higher levels. They told us once that they are also known as the workers of the angels. So they're very close to the angelic kingdom, which is the very, very top of the ladder. Pure energy beings. But of course, when a pure energy being wants to come down and work on a planet like Earth, they have to take on a physical form. And the Zeta Gray container is absolutely perfect for this, because being insectoid, they're fantastic for space travel. A physical Earth human body can't handle the G-forces and things, whereas that insectoid body can. And then, yes, back to the MILAB ones, I've actually worked with a couple of the military hybrids, helping them out. And one of them had awful trouble. Oh, she was bullied and taken by the men in black, and awful stuff she went through. And she actually appealed to higher beings to help her out. And yeah, they did. They assisted her to escape from the program. But yes, it is horrible what they put them through.
Walter, did you have a question?
More of a statement, and this lends itself a little bit to our pre-session discussion, Terry, that you and Doug and I had. One of the reasons I wanted Judy and Sherry in particular on is that there is a lot of airy-fairiness and lack of depth or understanding or agreement or affirmation about this whole idea of MyLab. And just this group that we have here, I can tell you, this is exactly what those in favor of the military abduction and military intervention programs, this is what they abhor this. They abhor the fact that there are public discussions among experiencers that this stuff is going to get put up on YouTube. And there is an exposure here that I think everybody needs to understand. And I understood it very well back in the 2000s when I was working with the military intelligence people. And I understand it still to this day. But this is very serious stuff. These people are ruthless and immoral to the nth degree. You cannot expect anything from them except harassment, pushing of their agenda, and the attempts to belittle you, to force your credibility out in the open, to do anything that they can to throw shade, a modern term, to throw shade on you. And this isn't just something that you can read in a book and get a real good feel from. I've experienced it, I still experience it. But I just want to follow in on Judy and Sherry on the extreme importance of your experiences in coming forward with this, because these are very, very real things. Sherry, you didn't spend $1,000 on gadgets around your house because you woke up with a headache one morning. And Judy, you didn't write your books because you had all these wonderful experiences with extraterrestrials, because you knew that you were having experiences with military governments and military intelligences and military agenda. And I just want to really bear down on this point. This is very, very real stuff. And it's not just happening to Judy Carroll and Sherry and Walter Rucker. It's happening to all kinds of people. And Terry, I think that you may even feel this yourself. You may feel the presence of being followed. You may feel the presence of other entities, human entities, being involved in your everyday life. And Seb, I know you do. We've talked about this before. I just want to bear down on that a little bit, because sometimes we just kind of bypass this whole idea that we have a government and a military that has been for decades deeply involved in our human psyche in ways that we don't even begin to understand, much less those things that are coming forward through Judy and Sherry today. My comment.
That was great, Walter. We're going to go 1 second. No, Seth, go right ahead, because I forgot what I wanted to ask, but it will come back.
No, I didn't realize I was muted. What I said was very good. Way to go, Walter. I thought that was really said very well. That's what I wanted to say.
Yeah, it was very good, Walter, because we had an interesting conversation earlier that that we just needed to get some things kind of on the table and settled out. But and it's amazing that this can go on this way. I will say one thing for sure, that having Sherry and Judy on, I see such, I read so much depth of experience in both your presentations and your faces. Just reading, looking at you, there's no messing around, and this is no light issue. I can see it in you, and I'm really, really happy that both of you are on. It's an amazing interview for me, just absolutely amazing, and for everybody, I'm sure. And I want to thank you also. We can go to the next question. Very, very, very amazing talk. Anybody else?
Just one quick question to Sherry and Judy. Have you experienced the astral Men in Black?
No.
Or 3D Men in Black? Astral or 3D, no?
No, I haven't.
Sherry?
I have. Yeah,
Which
the
one?
Men in Black. The Men in Black. I've had,
astral or, oh, okay.
Yeah, they came into my hotel room. I was in Chicago with my husband. I was down there for my third regression. We were going to investigate the abduction when I was just 2 or 3 months pregnant with my daughter. And I went missing from 6:30 or 7 in the morning until 4:30 in the afternoon. And that's when they tampered with the pregnancy. So we were going to do a regression to delve into that. And the Men in Black came into my room that night. My husband sleeping beside me. And again, I can't remember details, if there were 2 of them or 3 of them. I talk about it in the book, and I have goosebumps as I sit here talking about it because it was such a horrifying experience. The way that I describe it in the book is that they beat my soul. They didn't beat me physically, but they beat the essence of who I was. I did not even look like myself in the morning when I got up. I got up and I sat on the edge of the bed, and my husband looked at me and he just jumped back. And I couldn't, he said he wanted to know what was wrong, what happened to me. And all I could say was they programmed me with a message for Don Schmidt. And it was an insulting message to him and telling him that he would not be allowed to get any more information from me, that was not for him to know and not for the world to know, and that I was not to talk about the experiences I had. I was not to divulge the things that I knew, and that if I did, I would be very sorry for it. And I remember he ran out of the room. he got dressed as fast as he could and he left. And I was left in the room by myself. I don't mean to make him sound cruel, but he didn't know what to do for me. And I got up and I made my way. I was very, very heavy. I made my way into the bathroom and I looked into the mirror. I did not recognize myself. I looked deep into my eyes, as I've done many times after having had experiences trying to see who I really was down in there. And I believe that my soul, I've had soul retrievals, I've had a lot of soul retrievals because my soul does fracture and leave my body because of the terror that I've been subjected to. And that was one of the times I felt like my soul was gone. I couldn't find myself in there. And when we went finally later that morning to go meet with Don to do the regression, I was not able to be regressed. I became hysterical. And it was a lost cause. And I've never been able to be regressed properly since then. It's just recently, my producer, the lady who's making the series, the lady who did the documentary on me, she brought in someone, and she did pretty good with me. That's the first time in a long time. So yeah, I've had encounters with the Men in Black. I've had encounters with the Draco. I've had the Draco here at my house a few times. They've come in and they've scanned me. And I've had many dark entities.
What makes you go on? What makes you speak? What makes you keep going?
it's who I am. I'm wired that way, but I will say that I don't back down easily. It's my mission. But I will say that I did lose all quality of life back in 2014 and 15, 2013, 14, 15, when they poisoned me and the attacks were strong. And I would never kill myself, but I did want to leave the planet. So in early February, I went before the council and I requested an exit. And they begrudgingly, they asked me to stay, but I refused. And I said, I have no quality of life and I'm suffering every day. And they said I had an exit coming up in September of that year, of 2015, and I would be allowed to take it. I was going to die of pancreatic cancer. And I agreed. I was thrilled. I was so thrilled. I did not tell anybody about it except for my partner, Jim. And I was just very excited. September could not come fast enough. Within 10 days, I got a message from Anelia Benz. I don't know if you know her. I was just on Skype with her, on Zoom with her before this Zoom with my producer. She reached out to me and she asked me to come see her and spend time with her. I told her I was too sick, but Jim said, I'll take you to the airport. You get on the plane, you can sit on the plane, and you can sit, she'll pick you up at the airport. You need to go, you need to do this. So I did. I went out there and she looked at me and she said, I understand you plan to leave the planet. And I said, how did you know that? And she said, your guys, you're working with 3 different groups. They reached out to me and they said that they've been cut off from you. They can't reach you because your frequency has been pushed down so low. And they want you to know that you're not alone and that they would like you to persevere and complete your mission. And I said, not going to do it. And then she said, your soul family reached out to me. And they said, would you please give a message to Sherry? We can't reach her. She's lost to us. But would you give her the message that she will be very disappointed and feel very bad if she leaves the planet at this time before her mission is complete. She wanted so badly to be there and she took on a big mission and we didn't want her to go, but she persevered and she went. And now that she's there, we're supporting her and we just know she would be so brokenhearted if she left early. And I listened to Aeneas tell me that, and then she said, then I heard from Mother Earth. And Mother Earth said to me, one of my biggest advocates is planning to leave the planet, and we need her energy, we need her light to stay on the planet. Would you please talk to her and ask her if she won't reconsider? So I did reconsider, and I canceled my exit. And there were many times after that I regretted doing that. But just yesterday and today, I felt so much better yesterday and today. I feel like I've turned the corner, and I have always had the message. I've always had the understanding that it was going to be about 10 years, that this suffering was going to go on for 10 years, and I'm coming up on 10 years now. So I believe it's going to be gone. So I stayed partly because I'm stubborn, partly because I'm committed, and partly because I was asked to. So.
Well, we are very happy you stayed.
Wow.
That was good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Incredible. Al, did you want to ask something?
Yeah, I'm gonna switch our conversation a little bit to Judy and Sherry. Terry and Sev and Nancy have interactions with Greys. They've been on the ships. They've interacted with tall Greys, short Greys, clumsy Greys, smart Greys. My question is, are these the same species of individuals, like a bee colony or a beehive, or are they different species that are working together? Is the mentality of Zeta a military mentality, a communal mentality, like a beehive? How would you describe Zeta?
Okay, the Zetas they don't work through free will, they work through God's will. Okay. So it's not a military style setup. Everything that is done by a Zeta and other Greys, and this is where people get really confused. There are Greys right across the whole human ladder, from the physical type Zetas right up to almost angelic. And in a lot of cases, the grey container is worn by a being that doesn't have any physical form. And so you can get a grey from many, many different levels. And there are many, many different types of greys all over the universe. And they're not all grey. I mean, there are some blue-coloured ones, blue-grey Arcturians. I think there are some tall white ones. There's many, many different sorts of greys. So yes,
You're saying the tall white ones are also greys? I'm sorry to cut you off, but that was interesting. So what people call the Nordics are a type of gray?
Not the Nordics, no.
Oh, okay.
But the tall white ones with big eyes.
Oh, the tall white greys. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like the colouring. Yeah, not all grey colouring.
Okay.
So yeah, there are many, many different sorts of greys. Can you add to that, Sherry? Is that your experience?
Yeah, that is my. I have so many different beings come in, and I don't put labels on them. I have to tell you that. I just never have put labels on anyone or anything, and so it doesn't occur to me to do that. Only when I'm asked in interviews, and then sometimes I'll go back and I'll ask them, and then I'll get answers. Like one interviewer, what is his name with Veritas Radio? He asked me, Mel Fabregas. He asked me, yeah, he said to me, well, if they're wearing a container suit that's the body of a gray, and it scares you, because I told him they every time I see them, I always get scared. I don't know why, but when I first see them, I'm always scared. And he said, well, so if they care about you, why don't you ask them, why don't they wear a human body? Why don't they just put on a human body when they come to get you instead? And I said, well, that's a good question. I don't know. I'll ask them. And so the next time I saw him, I said, Mel's got a good point. Why, you wear that scary gray container and it scares the crap out of me. It scares my kids. Why don't you just wear a human body since you have a choice? And he looked at me and said, so we scare you? And I said, yeah, you do. I get scared for the first 10 or 15 minutes till I remember, who you are and everything. And he said, well, you scare us too sometimes. And I said, excuse me? And he said, yeah, you humans, you scare us, sometimes too. You have those teeth. He said, when you do that thing you call smile, it looks like you're going to eat it. He said, we get really scared of you. But he went on to answer my question, and he said, we don't use the human body because it's way too complicated and too fragile. He said, it's not fragile, like delicate, but he said it's complicated, and the Zeta body is way more functional and easy to maneuver in and easy to do their work in. So a lot of the beings that I work with are etheric by and large. Any of the higher frequency beings that are doing the good on the planet Art, they don't have bodies. So they wear the Zeta bodies. When they're not in the Zeta body, they're just etheric, they look like a ghost kind of with just these big place eyes, like, but they come in all shapes and sizes and forms. So.
They also appear as orbs too, in their light bodies. I've seen my grey teacher as a huge orange orb.
Judy's book writes, some ETs travel in artificial containers to adapt to space travel. Are any of you familiar with the book Alien Interview, edited by Spencer? I know Walter is.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So the premise in that book is that an ET crashes, he's captured, or she, whatever, and it telepathically communicates with a nurse to tell the story of A, the universe, of B, mankind, and also that ETs came to this area thousands of years ago, and they were captured by an evil empire. Their brains were scrambled, and they don't know that they're ETs anymore, and they're trapped in the Earth reincarnation cycle. Judy, you're shaking your head. Yes. Does that ring true to you? You must know the story.
I certainly do. I'm actually writing a commentary on that book at the moment.
Okay.
And I've thought it's come to a bit of a halt because I've been so busy. There's some truth in it, but most of it isn't. As far as I understand, I'm not exactly sure, but I think that Lawrence Spencer is a Scientologist, because a lot of the terms that are used in it are not used by the Greys.
Well, he didn't write. He didn't write the book.
He supposedly received this information from this nurse, Matilda Gulboy
Right,
or some name
right.
like that.
Right.
My feeling is that it's partly correct, but I think that there's been a lot of military interference in it, because some of the things are just totally wrong.
All right. And Philip Corso wrote a book the day after Roswell.
Yes.
And I read it, very interesting. He was in charge of developing ET technology. You write that he talked to an ET, and the ET, he asked the ET, "What can you do for me?" That was in your book, but in his book, he doesn't mention that. I was just curious why he doesn't mention that interview in his book.
Yes, he's mentioned it in other places. I mean, that's
right.
why I acknowledged him, because yes, yes,
Good.
yes.
All right.
Is there going to be any intervention, or are we going to have to figure this thing out ourselves? And is it only going to be coming from people like you through reading books and through watching interviews? And are we going to be learning that way? Or is some big thing going to come that's going to even override our, our governments and our politicians and military and everything? What are your feelings on that?
Okay, it's entirely up to humanity. We're the intervention at the moment. We're the ones who are down here, because I always laugh when people say, "Oh, why don't the ETs come down here and save us?" My teacher, Maris, gave a really, really good explanation for this. He said, what you could think of a sporting team and their coach. Now, between games, the coach can mentor, he trains the team, he talks to them, he gives them advice for playing the game. But once the game's on and the team's playing out on the field, the coach has to stand on the sideline. There's no way he can run out on the field and start playing. The team has to do it themselves. Now, this is basically the situation down here. If the ETs stepped in and heal the planet, which they could do with their technology, they could do it extremely quickly. If Earth humans can't move past the brainwashing that they've been subjected to, the whole thing would just go bleh, again. It's the humans who have to make the changes. They have to open their minds to the fact that they're multidimensional beings, which is why people like Sherry and Susie and I are writing our books to explain this. They have to learn to start creating and manifesting in love rather than in fear, because planet Earth is a school planet, and that's the lesson down here, because we're all creators in training, everyone is, because as we evolve up to higher levels of the human ladder, everyone becomes a creator or part of creative energy. I mean, we are already, but I mean expressing it consciously. And so the lesson that Earth humans are having to learn down here on this school planet is learning to manifest positively rather than negatively. And positive manifestation comes through love, negative manifestation comes through fear. And so this is sort of the Armageddon battle that they talk about. It's not an outer battle. It's a battle within the human heart between, to use Christian terms, the Christ essence or element and the Satan element. And the Christ elements love, the Satan elements fear. And so this is the battle that's going on inside every human right now, and very much so at the moment with what's going on, having to choose between love and fear.
Yeah.
So it's human consciousness itself that has to learn better ways of manifesting.
Yeah, I agree totally with what you're saying, Judy. I would just say that, it's been made very clear to me that there's no saving. You can't be saved. That does not culminate in any learning for you. Humanity came here to awaken. That's your soul came here to go through these experiences. And right now the split is happening, and you can see it. You can see it. Those who are wearing a mask and those who are not wearing a mask. You can see who's where. Those who are in fear and those who are not in fear. So it's the split is happening now. Those who are resonating with the 5D energies, the higher frequencies, are making that. They've made that decision. We have been, part of what I did was coming in often since 2009, meeting with the souls on the astral level and urging them. As I was taught to be a light reader, and I would read their energy, and I would say, there's still time. You can still make a run for it, take a dash for it. You can still wake up. You can still, wake up out of the unconsciousness, and you can choose to go with the planet into the higher frequencies. Most are not going to go with. Most are not going to make that decision. They have not made the decision. It's almost getting to the point where, I mean, it's never too late, but if they haven't made the decision by now, I'm not sure. But it's always available to them. But it would have to happen fairly quickly because we are in the split right now. It's what's happening now. So choosing between love and hate.
Agnes, you had a question?
Well, I want to refer to you both. Sherry, I read your book. I contacted you through email. I was really amazed by your story. And I want to say also, Judy, when you mentioned we are all creators, this deeply resonates with me. All my life was like this is the school here. We are like behaving like well, not even school children. We're like kindergarten. It's like to me. So when thoughts create our reality, so we really have to get rid of the fear. Really, really. So I can resonate totally with that. I want to ask you to share the story. You mentioned when you were on a ship and you tried to calm down a human being, a human male. This is so picturesque, you know. Maybe you can share this.
Yes, look, I'd love to.
Because this is really shows so obvious what's going on and why it's so important. And I've gone through fear and depression, all this, so I have empathy with everyone and see the importance, because when you really have the next step, telepathy, so you really merge with you know, I'm a Star Trek fan and cinematography, and so it reminds me like the Vulcan mind melt. You know, you're totally merging, but if you're merging, you really have to give up your fear of your ego. You know, you're losing your ego. You're merging. You're not yourself. You're the other one, and that can be really overwhelming if you're not prepared. So maybe you can relate to that, someone. Maybe after you tell the story, because this image, Judy, please.
Yeah, okay. This I've told this story on a few interviews, but I always like to retell it because it's extremely interesting. One night up on the ship as a grey, I went into the room that we refer to as the clinic, and there was a human male lying on the bed, partly paralysed, but he was able to turn his eyes to look to see who was coming in. And as soon as he saw me in my grey body, the look of absolute horror on his face was just beyond words. And when I'm up there, I'm exactly the same as I am down here. I don't change. I'm exactly the same person. So, of course, I thought to myself, oh, you poor thing. So I desperately tried to communicate with him, but because of the fact that we don't speak with our mouths, we speak telepathically, I couldn't reassure him in verbal language. So I was saying to him, look, just calm down. Don't be scared. You've been here before. We're not going to hurt you. We're doing something for your own good. But he was so wrapped in this cocoon of terror, I couldn't get my telepathic message of reassurance through to him. And I was literally shouting at the top of my telepathic voice, please calm down, calm down. But no way. So I was working with two other people, and one of them placed their hand on his head to, you know, anaesthetize him, as the Greys do. And our job was to remove an implant that the MyLab crowd down here had put in. He'd been having a series of contact experiences. He'd been having positive ones with our people, and he'd been having negative ones with the ones down here. And they put this implant into his head. And our job was to take it out. And I have a really, really clear memory of going down through the top of his sort of skull, reaching into his brain and undoing something. That was sort of the physical way my mind interpreted it, that I was obviously taking this implant out. And I remember pulling it out of his head and saying to the other two who were with me, oh, that's good, now he should be safe, we've got rid of that. And the funny thing was, while he was lying on the table and I was working on his head, my mind was working as you do down here when you're working on something, your mind wanders a bit. And I remember he had a very distinctive sort of beard around his mouth. And I remember thinking to myself, and I think saying to the others, gee, if ever I see him down on earth, I'm going to recognize him. And the funny thing was that years later, I did come into contact with him and I did recognize him, and he had a scar on his head, which was really weird. But that's the story.
Excuse me, did you tell the guy that you knew him?
No. No.
Oh,
Wouldn't go there. Wouldn't go there.
gosh, that is so freaky. Wow.
Al, you have another question?
Yeah, that was Terry, Judy, that you were working on. Yeah, two quick questions. You quote a lot of Whitley Strieber, and in one of his latest books, The Key, he is visited probably by a fifth or sixth dimension personality, and he's told that there's a eminent pole shift going to occur on the Earth. And in fact, we're probably 250,000 years overdue for it. Any feedback on that?
I can't actually remember quoting Whitley Strieber. I mean, I've been interviewed by him and I've read his books, but I don't remember quoting from him. But look, it's interesting because one of my great teachers actually sent a teaching through on this very thing the other day. And what he was saying is that when these messages come through about pole shifts and things like that, Earth humans tend to interpret it as a physical thing, but it's not a physical thing. The pole shift is happening right now. The masculine patriarchal energy is moving back and giving way to a more nurturing yin feminine energy. So that's the pole shift that's happening.
Okay, last question, or almost the last. Genetic engineering and hybrid. Sev, Nancy, Sherry have described it. What makes your genes or personality such a desire by whoever's taking your eggs? I mean, what is it that they have, you have, that ET sees in you as a desirable trait to transmit to a hybrid generation?
Can you just reword that? I don't quite understand what you're asking.
Okay. Sherry has 47, 48 children. Nancy has at least 2. Why were they chosen for their genetic makeup? Why not just any lady walking off the street? Or was it a choice that they wanted Sherry in particular because she had a certain trait?
Yes, they would have made a pre-birth choice. And
No. Why did they choose Sherry?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
They took eggs from her.
Yeah.
Why her eggs? Why her?
Because she would carry a particularly genetic bloodline.
Okay, so it's bloodline.
Yeah, from whoever. Yeah.
Okay. It's not green eyes or blonde hair. It's a bloodline.
Yeah. And the soul that's coming into the hybrid body would also have made a pre-birth choice for that particular person to be their mother.
I understand.
The whole thing's all pre-planned.
I understand that, right.
Sev, you had a question?
Thank you. In Roswell, I was given answers to that question. They told me that although the hybridization program involves millions of people, what I'm about to tell you is just a generalization. And they said that they do indeed have interest in people who do have a certain genetic DNA makeup, which is an intermingling of many different types of beings, as we all have. Also, people who are very empathetic and very loving and very emotional and have no problem showing it. And they're also interested in people who have higher than normal psychic abilities or ESP abilities, or the ability to exist in the multi-dimensions. So those are some of the things that they look for. but not
Yes.
always, but those are some of them.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes huge sense.
I'd like to ask both Sherry and Judy, as things are right now, we understand your soul, you made a soul agreement to do what you're doing. In fact, everybody on here, everyone has made a soul agreement. Do you regret, do you wish you didn't have this soul agreement? And if you didn't right now, if you could turn it on all off and be so-called normal people, okay, whatever normal people are, would you want to choose that? Or would you say, nope, I'm riding this out?
Yeah, writing it out.
Okay. Sherry?
Yeah, I would not, I wouldn't change it. Even looking back on everything that's happened, from where I'm sitting now, I wouldn't change it out. I'm good.
Are these experiences likened to being in a dream state when you talk about going up onto the ship and this and that and everything else? Or is this an actual, like in the middle of the day or in the afternoon, or is it always likened to similar to sleeping and dreaming and things like that?
Okay, for me, both. I've had full daytime experiences, and then, but usually it comes as a dream-like virtual dream experience for me, because I go up there when I leave the body at night. I go up there, so I come back in the morning and remember it like a sort of a dream. But then someone else who was up there will email me. I've got a couple of close friends down here that we work together up there, and they'll email me out of the blue and say, "Oh, do you remember doing such and such last night?" And the email will then, "Oh my God, yes, that's right." And they will compare notes. So for me, that's how it works both ways.
And Sherry?
Yeah, I would have to say the same thing. It's kind of like if you reflect back on your birthday when you were 35 years old or a certain age, or a certain event in your life. When you reflect back on it, kind of has a feeling of a dream. You know you lived it, but because it's a memory, it feels like a dream. And that's the way it is. The time you spend with them, it comes to the surface, and it feels, because it's out of this norm of reality, it has a dreamlike quality to it. But you know in your gut that it's real. You just know it, because first of all, I don't have the ability to make up this shit. I mean, I just can't make it up. I just can't. And they sometimes use words. He'll say things to me like, I'm a voyager of the universe going where needed in service to the Creator. I couldn't come up with that. So that's how I trust a lot of the stuff that I'm given, because it's beyond my ability to make that stuff up. So,
And sometimes you'll come back with a mark on your body too. I mean, I woke up one morning and I had this massive cut right around the bottom of my leg, all sealed with blisters, and I could remember a couple of the small greys doing practice on me with a laser sort of surgical instrument.
I wake up. I'm not in anywhere near what we're talking about with most of you here, but I'll wake up and I'll specifically remember reciting or saying something that I'm 100% sure is not me. It's just simply not me. A lot of my songs in my show that I wrote, no, that's another story for another day, but I wrote a musical. I feel that they were downloaded. I feel that I didn't have the ability to do this, and it came to me. But things come to me in the middle of the night. I'll wake up in that hypnopompic or hypnagogic state, and I will remember something and I will say something, and I'm actually reciting something as I'm waking up. And if I'm not astute to catch it right then and there, it's gone. I'll forget it 1, 2, 3. But if I catch it and I think about it, I'll say, who is this? Because it's not me. I know it's not me. I'm in communication with something else, but I can't grab it like you two can. I just cannot grab it. I can't grab onto it. And one other thing I wanted to say about dreams, because it keeps coming up for me all the time. I had a horrific nightmare as a child. I was going to Catholic grammar school, and I always wrote it off to being that I saw there was a little I used to call her a little green nun in Annunciation Catholic school, and she used to scare the daylights out of me. And I saw her on my wall at night. I was dreaming. I woke up and I saw her on my wall, what I considered to be this nun, Sister Mary Daniels, her name was. And I screamed so horrifically that I slept in my parents' bed, and it scarred me for so many years. And whenever we get on the topic of this, I think to that dream. I keep thinking to that dream, that very, very possibly, maybe it wasn't just a dream of a nun on the wall. Maybe it was something else. And I didn't know how to explain it. And I still to this day don't know how to explain it. And maybe very possibly, I got a visit and I scared the daylights out of them so much too that they never returned. So it's almost like I even scared ET away. They're like, well, we're not going there. I mean, that place is crazy. So what are your thoughts on that? And then we can finish off with everybody else.
Yeah, well, again, you know, the nun thing, going back, funnily enough, going back to quoting Whitley Strieber, if any of you have ever read his book, The Secret School, he used to attend a school run by an elderly grey, and she was dressed in the black robes, which my teachers wear as well. And he used to think of her as being a sister, one of the Sisters of Mercy, you know, the order of nuns who wear the black, and they were actually the order of nuns that ran the school I went to. And so, yeah, that it was probably a grey dressed up in the gear, and you thought it was a nun.
Yeah, I mean, I've never been this, I still to this day, and whenever I talk with this kind of group or get on a UFO group or talk in these kinds of terms, that at night, that keeps coming back to me. And it's almost like my consciousness pushes it away right away, pushes it right away. But it's there, it's there. Terry?
Yeah, I was just going to say, you know, that really resonates with me. I have a couple dreams from when I was 4 or 5. They're in vivid color, and certain things will trigger them. And they're as crystal clear in my memory as they were when I was 6, you know? And, you know, I can't remember the birthday parties, the Christmases, you know, all that other stuff that was important to me. I don't remember, but these stupid dreams stay with me in their entirety in vivid color. And I just think that's very strange.
Yes, absolutely agreed. We're winding down to end this soon. Anybody want to go, you know, another question around the ring, or anybody want to say anything, or, you know, Walter, you got
I would like to, I'd like to respond to your comment that you made earlier.
Okay.
Doug, I guess. You said that you wake up, you hear voices, you're getting messages, you're getting like, it's almost like downloads. I would just say you don't know where that's coming from. We're multidimensional beings, and what you're getting is information from another aspect of yourself. I'm quite sure that you know, you live different lives in different realms, and so there's an overlap that's happening. So when you're getting those messages, that's coming in, there's usually a purpose for it. Sometimes it's just random, but a lot of times I have found when another aspect of myself in a different realm is speaking to me, it's probably a good idea to listen to it and see what it has to say. So that's what I think you're getting, is just message from yourself in a different realm. Just want to point that out.
Thank you. I'm trying to listen to it, and every now and then I do catch it. But exactly, I'm going to try to. I'm trying to catch it and before it's gone, because it's very fleeting sometimes.
Yeah, a question for Judy and Sherry. The assumption and the information that I have about Roswell, our Epiphany UFO event here in the United States, is that these were grays, and that they did crash, and that there were some dead bodies and perhaps one live body recovered. The details of that vary. But the one thing that has always struck me about this is here we have this advanced extraterrestrial presence in an advanced craft that somehow loses its propulsion and crashes in the middle of a desert. And I always wondered, and I like your comment on this, Sherry and Judy, considering all the information that we got out of that and still are getting out of that, was that more of a donation than an accident?
Yes, it was. Yes, there's 2 levels involved here. There's a higher, bigger picture. To get this, what the whole idea was to get technology down here in a non-threatening way, because if the rays had just approached the military or government or whatever, all hell would have broken loose. So by bringing it down in a ship that crashed like that, it was a more non-threatening way for Earth humans to be able to access the technology. But on the lower level, yes, the ship did crash. It was actually shot down. There was some sort of wave shot at it from down here, which caused the crew to lose control.
So,
Sev and Agnes, Sev or Agnes, whoever wants to go first.
Just very quickly, excuse me, in the Roswell crash, were there live bodies that our government took?
Yeah.
Okay.
Agnes?
I want to refer quickly back to the hybrid program. I was wondering, do you have any information, and this is to all of you, mainly Judy and Sherry, please, but and Seth and Nancy, but all of you, if you have any comment on, do you think the hybrid program, or any information, if the hybrid program is global, it's not only in the USA?
Sherry, have you got anything?
it's definitely global. It's not limited to the United States. Yeah, it's definitely global, for sure.
Do you have any
Intergalactic.
Yes, but I'm just I'm only have connection to you guys mainly. I still haven't tapped into other areas. Do you have any information maybe from any other people, concrete thing, connections, information?
Well, I know a number of different races, like off-planet races, are taking part in it. They're donating DNA. I do know that.
But here on Earth?
Yeah.
Yeah, outside the USA, I mean. Like, no, in Africa or in Australia. Okay, but these are, you know, when I think of colonialism, you know, it's British Empire and there's connections to the USA, to Canada, to Australia, to New Zealand, and even, well, not British Empire, but to South Africa. But I'm wondering, are there connections to other cultures, other nations, people, Asia, Japan,
Oh yes, it's global.
Siberia, you know,
Yeah.
South
Yes, it is.
America.
Yeah, it is global. Yeah.
Well, it's more than global. It's just
more than global.
It's the way the universe is constructed. It just happens. It's going on constantly. It's how we got to be who we are. There is no such thing as a purebred race. Just like the ETs are always dabbling in genetics and in creating new forms of life and then getting it to a certain point where then there's consciousness. It's just what they do. It's part of the joy of being in this realm.
Yeah, just more of a comment. If ETs are crashing all around the globe to give us information, the prime directive is it's a lot of baloney. I mean, it's just not working. Why not just come out and help? Because if the prime directive is a policy, it ain't being enforced if you're dropping information down in spacecrafts for us to reorganize and use in our technology. That's my comment.
But no, they're not actually crashing all over the globe. There's only been one or two.
Not in Russia and Mexico, no?
Oh, there has been one or two, but not as many as they make out to be.
Oh, I thought there much more. Okay.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
And whatever the crash is, it's always being used for the military. So it's always being scoffed up and taken by the military, and it's only furthering the ability for us to war with each other. I know there's a trickle down to all of us with cell phones and, all our technology today, GPS and everything that we have. But I read the Corso book also, and there's a lot of information. It just makes you feel it goes directly to the military. So it almost seems like, well, it's like trying to throw food to, you're ever feeding ducks and you're trying to feed the little babies and the big mother keeps taking all the food when you're feeding them. It's like that. It's like the military takes everything from us.
there's free will. I mean, that's where free will comes in. And, you know, they can supply the technology to us in that manner. And it's our free will as to, you know, humanity has been so passive, the sleepers, the normies, or whatever you want to call them, you know, they're very passive, but at least it's out there in front of their faces, they can see, and maybe it will trigger some people to wake up enough to challenge it and say, you know, what is happening here and why can't we have some of that? So it comes down to free will. They can provide the technology to us in that manner. It's up to us what we do with it.
I see. Okay. Well, we're like a little bit after 6 o'clock. Does everybody want to pretty much say good night or goodbye?
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. You were a great guest. I'm going to watch this
Thank
entire
you.
thing. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Sherry,
that was
thank you,
good.
Judy. Thank you.